Hi all, here Professor Ravi Kumar, Assistant Professor, School of Mechanical Engineering, Shastra DMT University. I welcome you all into the volume 3 of Introduction to Aircraft Engine. Prior to that, in previous lectures, lecture number 26 and 27, we have covered piston engine followed by the turbojet engine. Then we have seen two, important, devices used on turbojet, right? Thrust vectoring, thrust reversal, and afterburning. And we have seen some applications, right? Areas where turbojet engines are being used. In lecture 27, we have seen the detailed working principle of turboprop and its application. Today, agenda is we are going to discuss turbofan, turboshaft, then advanced propulsion engine in today's discussion. All right. So this is the agenda for today. All right. Turbofan engine followed by the turboshaft engine. Then we'll go for the ramjet and scramjet. These two ramjet and scramjet engines are known as advanced air breathing engines. So if you look at the turbofan engine, so in turboprop engine, disadvantage was that the altitude limitation was there when it was flying at high altitude and at higher angle of attack. The stalling problem was occurring at the tip of the propeller. So instead of putting the propeller outside, another method came to put the fan inside the casing. So now no moving part is external to the engine. So the problem of stalling will be avoided here. So look at the configuration here. There is a fan inside. There is a duct that's called intake, and then followed by the fan. And fan will be connected to the compressor, and then finally turbine. So turbine will be generating sufficient power to run the fan, right? So here again, you look at basically it is a combination of turbojet and fan, right? So working principle is almost similar to turbojet with addition of fan. So total thrust, if you are going to find out, will be the summation of thrust generated by the cold flow in a fan plus the thrust generated by the hot flow, right? That is called core engine turbojet. All right. So nowadays, right, particularly most of the civilian passenger aircrafts are using the turbofan engine because these are more efficient, right? Even at lower speed, where turbojet becomes inefficient, at the high speed, where turboprop are not efficient. So it is having dual, advantages over the turbojet and turboprop configuration. So if you look at the schematic diagram of it, right, this is a fan, right, which is attached, and fan is enclosed by the casing, right, and then followed by the core jet engine, right, where you may find compressor which is attached with the turbine. So here turbine basically we are using the twin spool configuration. That means two set of turbines are being used. One is called low pressure turbine, another is called high pressure turbine. So the low pressure turbine is connected to the compressor and high pressure turbine is connected to the fan. So both of these turbines are independently running the compressor and fan here. So what fan basically is doing, you look at this, curvature present here. So the air cold flow which is coming in the fan is getting expanded here in the divergence section. So due to this expansion of the cold flow, it is generating the thrust, right? And as well as you look at the core engine, which is the turbojet, and turbojet hot righteous gases are getting expelled through the nozzle here, and this jet is also generating the thrust that is called jet thrust. So summation of cold thrust plus jet thrust will give the total thrust generated by the turbofan. So it is having added advantage over the turbojet engine. So turbofan engine combines both the advantage of turbojet and turboprop engine. It consists of intake. This is the intake followed by the fan, compressor, combustion chamber, turbine, and nozzle. So air after passing through the fan is divided into two streams. So you look at it is divided into two streams. One is following over the top surface of the man core engine, right? So what is the advantage of that? It will provide the cooling, right? It will provide the cooling, enhanced cooling, right, to the combustion chamber. So we can do further burning of fuel in the combustion chamber. So overall efficiency of this combination will be higher than the traditional turbojet engine. The primary stream goes through the turbojet. This is the primary stream. This is the secondary stream, right? Primary stream goes to the core engine, that is called turbojet, and secondary air, that is called bypass air, right, at a relatively lower pressure compared to this, right, is ducted around the core and thereby cooling the engine and also provide a small amount of thrust, right. So if you look at here, configuration is nothing but this is called bypass air, right, which is flowing over the curvature of the core jet engine and provides the cooling. So the combination of the this kind of fan improves the overall efficiency of the combined turbofan engine, and that's why modern transport airplanes particularly they are using the turbofan, as well as most of the civilian passenger aircrafts are utilizing the turbofan engine because it is having added advantage over the traditional turbojet and turboprop. So bypass ratio is nothing but the mass of the bypassed air, that is called cold air, divided by the mass of core air, that is called hot air, which is coming here. So this ratio is called bypass ratio. If bypass ratio is more, right, that means more cooling. So more cooling means lesser thrust space fuel consumption, right. So space consumption will be less. So if you look at this schematic diagram, this is a cut section of actual bypass turbofan engine. So look at here, this is the fan assembly which is here, right, and fan is directly coupled to the high pressure turbine over here, and followed by the core engine which is here. This is a core engine, this is a compressor section, right, and then finally these are the combustors, right, and immediately after that low pressure turbine is there which is coupled to the compressor. All right. So in this case, right, basically bypass ratio may be in the range of 6 is to 1 and may go up to 8 is to 1. That means 6 times air flow, all right, compared to the fuel, all right, we are using here. So higher the bypass ratio, higher will be the what do we say, cooling of the core jet engine. So higher will be the overall efficiency. So mass of cold air is higher than the mass of hot air which is coming out through the core jet engine. So if we look at the application, right, of the turboprop, this is the famous application, right, the biggest aircraft, Antonov 225 Miria, right. So it is having two variants, right. One is Antonov 225 Cossack, another is called Miria. It is a strategic airlift cargo aircraft that was designed by the Antonov Design Bureau in the Ukrainian SSR within the Soviet Union during 1980s. It is powered by basically six turbofan engines, right, and is known as the heaviest aircraft ever built, right. It is powered by the six turbofan engines, right, T18 turbofans, and each engine is providing around 229.5 kilonewton of thrust, right. So then look at how much thrust it will be generating. So overall weight is given here this much pound, right, and the length and a big span is given 290 inch, right, and 275 is the length. So overall, look at the maximum takeoff speed by which it can sorry, maximum takeoff weight up to what take it weight it can take is around 640 tons, right. So overall weight of aircraft is around 285,000 kilogram, right, and wing span around 88 meter and length is approximately 84 meter. The top speed up to which it can fly is around 850 kilometer per hour. Cost of one antenna of 225 Miria basically ranges between 200 million US dollar to 250 million US dollar. So this is particularly used for transporting the heavy vehicles, like you can transport the cars, right, trucks, heavy trucks, tanks, right, weaponaries from one place to another place. And this is one example in the picture you are seeing. this is a basically train coach, right? Engines and complete train coaches can also be, can be put inside the antenna of Miria and can be transport anywhere, any place in the world, right? This is the biggest aircraft ever built. This is one of the famous example of turbofan engine. All right. If you go to the turbo shaft engine, basically turbo shaft engine finds application in helicopters, right? So if you look at here, this is the direction gearing mechanism. Then there is a shaft, and over that shaft, usually propeller is to be attached. It will be oriented vertically, right, and maybe oriented sometime horizontally in some of the helicopters. So it is a combination of both turboprop and turboshaft, right? Basically, both turboprop and turboshaft. If you look at the working, it's not a combination. It is a working. If you look at turboprop and turboshaft, is almost similar, right? In turboprop, we are attaching a propeller, right? The propeller may be a six-bladed or maybe four-bladed propeller, but here it is a helicopter propeller. It is be having larger length compared to the propellers that we are using the turboprop configuration. So it is a combination of this is the core jet engine, right? This is a core jet engine, usually compression and turbine combination combustor. The core jet engine attached with a shaft, right? In turboprop, it was the core jet engine attached with a propeller. It consists a shaft, right, in place of propeller, and then followed by the compressor, right, then combustion chamber, turbine, and finally nozzle. So all the delivered power in the form of shaft power. So it will generate only shaft power and is used in the helicopter and various land and marine applications. Because of the high RPM of the turbo shaft, right, we need a reduction gearing. This is the drawback of both the combination configuration of turboprop and turbo shaft. We need a reduction gearing to come to the rated speed at which it can generate effectively all the required thrust power. So example, if you look at famous example of it is given here Bell CH-146 Griffon helicopter, which is utilizing Pratt& Whitney Canada PT60 twin turboshaft engine particularly. So if you look at this, helicopter, it is multi-role utility helicopter of the UAV family designed by the Bell helicopter Textron as a variant of Bell 412 EP for the Canadian Armed Forces. Right, and it is basically being used by the armed forces for aerial firepower, reconnaissance, search and rescue, as well as aero mobility tasks. So this was one of the most famous application of turboshaft engine. Second, example is here. You look at how big this helicopter is, right? With the side view, and look at this is also the same helicopter which is here, and this is the spacing, right, where you can attach a complete, payload, right? It can carry the payload to any location, right? Particularly, you can say the warfares, right, used in the military purposes. So this is the example of Sikorsky CH-54A Tare, right? That is also known as Sky Crane, powered by two 400 HP Pratt& Whitney T73 P1 turboshaft engines. So there are basically two turboshaft engines which are attached here with the propeller, and that is basically powering this helicopter. So if we look at this configuration, this is American twin engine heavy lift helicopter designed by Sikorsky uh, aircraft company for the US Army. It is named after Tare, right? You look at this, there's the name, named after Tare, an 18th century chief of the Beandol Indian tribe, right? The civil version of it is, this is a civil version basically. The civil version of it is S64 Sky Crane, and up to today around 105 a total count of these helicopters have been developed by the US. Next one is PulseJet. This is the first, application of the turbojet concept by the Germany in the World War One. Right, it's very famous German B-1 bomber. You may be aware about it. The first time Germany displayed to the world the jet technology. So look at the configuration. It will be attached over here, right? This is the pipe kind of ducted kind of thing which is attached over the pilotless craft. It's a pilotless version for German B-1 bomber. So it be look at the cut section of it, right? It will be looking like this. So it is having intake followed by the valve grids. These are the valve grids. This is some sort of springs, and that will be open and close at its own spring pressure, right? Followed by the flame holders. This is the injector flame holder. Here combustion will happen, combustion chamber, right? Then this is the duct through which it will accelerate and it will provide the necessary thruster. All right. So this is basically a shutter valve, right, which will operate, which will open and close on its own spring pressure, right? And this is the air intake, and finally combustion is happening here. You look at fuel supply. This is jet pipe, right, where it will be expanded, and finally it's expelled out of it, right? So as we have seen, there is a grid valve which can be able to open and close on its own spring pressure. So whenever there is a pressure drop within this across this valve grid, the valve will open, will allow the fresh air to enter here, and then combustion start. Once combustion start, it will be approximately constant volume combustion. So there will be a drastic increase in pressure within the combustion chamber, due to which what will happen? The valve grid will close. Then high temperature hot gases expelled, they will expand it through this jet pipe and finally expelled to the atmosphere, due to which there will be a generation of thruster. And then again vacuum will be generated right inside this combustion chamber, due to which valve grid open, again fresh air enters, right, and combustion starts and process continues. So as here, air is entering into certain intervals, right? That's why it used to provide the thrust in pulses, right? So if it is properly designed, it will continuously can provide you thrust at particular interval, and that's why we call this as pulse jet engine, pulse jet engine. So if you look at this, it doesn't require any movable parts, right? It doesn't require any compressor, it doesn't require any turbine. So movable parts are basically absence. So due to absence of those movable parts, the overall weight of this engine will be less, right? It will be less mechanical, vibration issues also will be involved in the pulse jet engine. So famous example is German B-1 bomber, also has been used in the target aircraft missiles. Doesn't have the ability to produce the static thrust. It has to be launched, right, particularly from any aircraft, right, and it cannot produce thrust particularly at lower speed, that is less than 100 mile per hour, right. So first of all you have to take this up to this speed, then you have to launch it. So advantage, simple and cheap for subsonic flight, develops thrust at zero speed, right? And disadvantage, it requires initial velocity by launching device. So a launching device is required. It has to be launched from an aircraft, right? By providing initial velocity more than 100 mile per hour. So maximum operating altitude is limited because density consideration, thrust decreases. More vibration issues are there and high intense of noise, which restrict the use of it for pilotless aircrafts, right. Maximum flight speed is limited by aerodynamic consideration to below 750 kilometer per hour, so right, it cannot go beyond that. If it's going beyond that, operation will not be sustainable, right, in the combustion chamber, and it cannot operate effectively beyond this speed. Then another configuration came by this advanced propulsion engine, that is called ramjet engine, right. This is used extremely for high speed operation, right, at Mach number between 2 and 4, right. So if you look at this, there is a spike, right. This is a spike, and what the purpose of this spike, which is facing the flow, it will compress the incoming air. When it is going to compress this air, right, what will happen? Its pressure will increase. So it will be working like a compressor. So instead of having rotary compressor, we are using one spike, right. So there is no movable component here. So there is no movable component. There is no problem of vibrations, right, or unwanted, what do we say, frictional losses in the engine. So it doesn't contain any moving parts, compressor turbine, and particularly in pulse jet, we were having the valve grid that is also absent here, right? So consists of a supersonic diffuser. This is a diffuser basically, supersonic diffuser, because it is operating at higher speed, Mach 2 to 4. So first it has to decelerate the things. When it's going to decelerate the flow, this pressure rises, right, as per the Bernoulli's principle. So supersonic diffuser followed by the subsonic diffuser. So here supersonic diffuser, then subsonic diffuser is here. Then finally it come into the combustion chamber where these are the fuel cells, right, through which fuel will come. This is the fuel spray. Then this is the flame holder where burning will take place. And finally, this is the nozzle, variable area ratio nozzle, that is called CD nozzle, combustion and diversion nozzle, to by which hot gases will be expelled at very high speed, right, and to which it will generate this supersonic speed. So it relies basically on the inertia of incoming air, right? So higher the kinetic inertia of incoming air, higher will be the combustion efficiency, or you can say the higher will be the jet velocity by which jet will be coming out from the nozzle. So higher the jet velocity, higher will be the thrust. Particularly this kind of configuration finds application. First time it was displayed in SR-71 Blackbird, right, which used to fly at supersonic speed, right. So again, problem with this kind of configuration is similar like what we faced in the pulse jet engine, is that it requires the initial velocity, right? It cannot be starting from the rest. So it cannot produce the static thrust, right? So it has to be launched from some launching device, maybe from an aircraft, all right. So advantages: it is very simple design, doesn't have any moving parts, cheap and requires no maintenance. Its performance lies in supersonic speed Mach 2 to 4, maximum up to 4 Mach number it can fly. Due to its high thrust at high speed, it is widely used in high speed military aircrafts and missiles. Disadvantage: it must either be launched from aircraft in flight or be given initial velocity by some auxiliary means like via rockets. Operating altitude is limited, right? More fuel consumption and suitable for nuclear propulsion, particularly. So, because why is a more fuel combustion? Because we don't have any control over the fuel getting introduced in the combustion chamber. Directly, there will be a continuous flow of fuel, and burning will take place in the absence of, in the presence of high pressure air which is coming through the subsonic diffuser. Another variant, right, after the Ramjet, which is still under research and development, is basically scramjet, right? So scramjet is nothing but supersonic combustion ramjet, right? In ramjet, combustion was happening at subsonic speed, right? Subsonic speed, and because of that there was a limitation in the maximum speed of the exhaust gases, right, by which it can come out, right. So to enhance a further speed beyond Mach number 4, particularly for getting the hypersonic speed capability, further design was made. So instead of having supersonic diffuser and subsonic diffuser, design was slightly changed to make only one supersonic diffuser, then followed by the supersonic combustion. So you look at the shape of the diffuser, right? It is designed in such a way that when aircraft used to fly at supersonic speed, right, there will be generation of shock waves, right, and those shock waves will interact with the lower call, right, engine call here, and it will create diamond shocks, right, or it's due to shock interactions, right, of lake and then reflected shock wave combinedly they will be forming the diamond shaped shock pattern. Due to this, the incoming air flow will undergo continuous compression, so there will be a very high increase in pressure ratio of the incoming air. So that high pressurized incoming air comes inside the combustion chamber at supersonic speed, right? Still is a supersonic, even though it has been decelerated, but still is a supersonic. And combustion occurs at the supersonic speed. When combustion occurs at supersonic speed, that means combustion process will be fast and complete. So there will be complete combustion of fuel. Then that high temperature hot gas is expelled through the nozzle. Look at the nozzle; it is a divergent section, right? Divergent section. So it expelled through the nozzle, right, at very high speed, and as a result of that, this aircraft, right, generated the hypersonic speed. And the at present, a lot of testings have been done, right, apart from the R&D, and with the help of the scramjet, particularly, we are capable of crossing the Mark number up to 9, so far 9, and now USA already started working on a missile which can operate at Mark number 11, right? And soon I think so they are having plan to test that missile by 2025, right? So that myth will also be over by that time. So basically, air enters into the combustion chamber at supersonic speed, and suitable arrangement for flame stabilizations are here. And if you look at the overall efficiency of the scramjet will be higher compared to the ramjet, right? Because here combustion is happening at supersonic speed, and because of that, the exhaust jet velocity will be higher than the ramjet engine. It is very difficult to design because you look at the the configuration, right? Particularly design configuration is very complex, right? You need to give proper attention over intake as well as on the nozzle section, right? So intake need to be designed in such a way that look at there is a slight variations are given right here at every band, right? Which is facing the flow, which is flow is supersonic. Look at flow comes at Mach number around 4 point something, right? So it is a supersonic. At the moment the airflow strikes over this convex corner, it's basically a convex, there is a formation of oblique shock wave, right? Then further, you look at here, here also gradual, concave is given. Here again a shock wave will form that is called oblique shock wave, then reflected shock wave, then oblique shock wave. Like that combination of shocks will be forming, right? They will be looking like diamond shaped shock. So airflow which is entering here will undergo continuous compression, right, at supersonic speed, right, at supersonic speed. So high pressure air at supersonic speed enters into the combustion chamber where combustion will happen. Now problem is there will be a heat losses, right, across the system combustion chamber boundary, right? So proper material should be used as a paint material, right, to avoid the losses, heat losses here. Obviously there will be drag penalty because of the formation of shock wave, but overall our motto is to get hypersonic speed that will be fulfilled, right? So drag can be compromised. So what are the disadvantages? Supersonic combustion cannot be sustained. Problem is there. Still some more research is needed. So practically tested scramjet have only operated for a few seconds. They have tried and more testings are going on. Right? It has been flown only for some few seconds. Advantage: it is shorter than the ramjet engine because of the absence of subsonic diffuser. Right? One diffuser we have eliminated. Right? And because of combustion is supersonic, combustion will be fast, quick, and complete. Right, there will be no unburned carbon mono components. Light in weight, absence of compression and turbine, right? Maximum thrust is not limited, and hence high maximum temperature is possible within the combustion chamber, right? So these two engines, particularly ramjet and scramjets, are the advanced propulsion engines. Particularly we are using for the development of next generation warfare, right? Nuclear capable warfare, right? Missiles and rockets. So with this, we are closing the introduction to the air breathing engines, right? So we have seen various air breathing engines, right, till now. All right. So if you are having any queries, right, particularly in this topic, you feel free to write in the comment section, or you can directly approach to me. I have already shared with you my WhatsApp number, right? So here we close the discussion about air breathing engines. In next lecture, when we'll go right, we will be starting the non-air breathing engine. Particularly, we'll be talking about the rocket engine, how rocket used to work on what principle, right? What are the different types of rockets, right, and their applications. So today, if I summarize the content, we have started with turbofan engine, where the detailed explanation of working principle of turbofan engine was discussed, and we have seen the respective applications of turbofan engine. And from day to day experience, we see nowadays most of the civilian and transport aircrafts are using turbofan engine because they are having highest efficiency compared to the turbojet and turboprop, because turbojet is inefficient at low speed, right, and at high speed, right, turboprop is inefficient because of the separation. So this turbofan is having very good performance even at low speed as well as at high speed, right, where your turbojet turboprop is inefficient. So it is having dual advantage of turboprop and turbojet. Then we have seen the turboshaft configuration. Turboshaft engines are being used in the helicopters, right? Particularly, so instead of a propeller, we are using shaft there. What are the disadvantages for both turboprop and turboshaft is we do need reduction gearing. So addition of reduction gear will increase the weight. So weight penalty will be there in both kind of these configuration. All right, and both of these engines will basically generate the shaft power, right, or it's called thrust power. Rating of these will be in power, right, in terms of power or kilowatt, and rating of jet engine will be in terms of Newton, right. Similarly, ramjet, and later on we have seen the pulse jet. Pulse jet was used in the World War I, and after that it has not been used, right, and that was the turning point for the discovery of the gas turbine based engine. And immediately after that, there was a tremendous development in the gas turbine based engines. Then these all variants came into the picture: turbojet, turboprop, and turbofan. And last, then we have seen the advanced propulsion engines, right, ramjet and scramjet, where there is no movable parts, right. As there is no movable part, right, they are light in weight and their efficiency is more, right. They are much more effective at higher speed. So this much is enough for today, right? Thanks for your patience and listening to today's lecture. See you all in next class. Have a nice day. Good day.